welcome back to another episode of Tech Pro Unicorn. I am your host, Michael Grace, and today I am joined by Ken Wimberly. Ken Wimberly is a successful business owner of 5 different businesses, but he's currently in the process of building his passion project in technology. He started this app in honor of his daughter, Grace, and has decided to share this amazing connection with other parents. And the passion project is it's an app. It's a legacy journal. So it fits the scope of this podcast in several different ways. One, that it's an app and a technology-based product. And also that it, has a deep meaning, I think, for me as a father. So I was really excited to connect with Ken and have him on the podcast. So Ken, thank you for taking the time.
Well, Michael, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being invited as your guest.
Awesome. So the Legacy Journal in an app. Talk about how this came about. How did you get to want to start this as a passion project, and a little bit about your journey and who Ken is. And
yeah, well, really, this was building an app was not in my cards, if you will. I didn't set out when I set out on this project. It was something simply for my children. It wasn't to go do something for someone else. And I've got 3 children. I have my daughter will be 19 in a week.
Wow.
So daughter's almost 19. My older son is 17. And then we have a young guy, Kai, who is 5 years old and in kindergarten. So, but when Grace, my daughter, was just a little baby, even when she was in the womb and until probably about 6 months old, I had a few things happen in my life that just kind of got me thinking about leaving something from or capturing the moments for my children. I'll tell you quickly. I had 3 things happen. One, when we were pregnant, my attorney came up to me. He's like, Ken, I got to tell you what I'm doing for my kids. And he shared the story with me that absolutely blew me away. He was, and this was 2002 when we were pregnant. And he, at the end of every year, he had 2 young boys. At the end of every year, he would, they shot a lot of video in their family, way pre-iPhone days. He's like video camera. But at the end of each year, he would take 1 minute of video per month for each one of his boys, splice it together onto a DVD, put a music track over it, and give them a "This Is Your Life" in 2003 video. I mean, that was the most amazing idea. And I was like, wow, I'd love to do something like that. But I didn't own a video camera. I didn't know how to edit videos. And I wasn't really prepared to jump in and learn at the time. So I was like, okay, but I just put that in my mind. Okay, that's an idea. I could do something like that. And then around that same time, I received a gift that was one of the most meaningful gifts I've to this day received. And that was my stepmother gave me for my birthday a beautiful leather-bound scrapbook of my life, and literally opened it up. And the first picture in that scrapbook is my little baby picture wearing a hospital bracelet. And then as you kind of turn the pages, it took you through the story of my life with handwritten notes in the margins and pictures of, family members that I haven't seen in ages, because they're long since deceased. And it was just a beautiful tribute to my life and a testament to her love for me. And so that was super, super meaningful. Even more meaningful that 2 years later, she got bone cancer and we lost her. And so today that's like a living testament to her love. So that was one thing. And then the third thing that happened was, like, Grace was maybe 6 months old. I was holding her in a restaurant. First time we had taken her out to eat. And, so I'm like walking around with her in a restaurant, and this older gentleman, grandfatherly figure, comes up to me with kind of misty tears in his eyes. And he just looked at me and he said, son, never let a day go by without telling that sweet child just how much you love her. He said, because you will never believe how quickly the time flies. I was like, wow. So there's 3 things that kind of hit me, 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, okay, what can I do for my kids to make sure that time doesn't fly, to make sure that I document the special moments and do this? And I thought, well, I can write. I can write down, jot a few notes and tell a story. And so I started that when Grace was 10 months old. I wrote her first journal entry, and just in a Word document is what frankly, I was debating whether or not to do it in a paper form or digital form. And, because there are definite benefits to pen to paper journaling. But honestly, I can type faster than I can write. So I was like, okay, I'll do it digitally because I can, typing was my, I guess, premier class in high school. So I started a digital journal for my daughter way back in 2003. And I wanted a rhythm that I could commit to. I wanted something that I wouldn't just start and stop, something that I could live with. And so I made the commitment just once a month. I said, I can commit once per month for each of my children to slow down and write down one story of what's happening in their life or a story about my life, something to kind of tell them a little bit about what's going on. And that's what I started. And then probably about a year and a half, 2 years later, I realized, whoa, you can put a photo in a Word doc. And so I started annotating photos into the stories. And then a little bit later, I realized if you put too many photos in a Word doc, everything crashes. And so I kind of went through this process of starts and fits and learning what works, what doesn't work. And it just kind of went along that way for a while. And I started sharing this concept with a lot of other parents as I was going along. I was like, man, here's something. I'd share the story about what these other people had done for me, and then share what I was doing for my children. A lot of them started doing the same thing. They said, man, that's a brilliant idea. I'm going to start doing that myself. And so they would start doing it. It was really cool because then they would send me pictures of their journals that they had started. And that was super special for me. Well, then as time went on, I moved, from a Word doc that kept crashing and taking up too much memory to like note-taking apps. As Evernote came out, OneNote came out, and then notes on your phone. And so I ended up having stories in various different places, right? So I've got Word docs, got Evernote, got notes, I got all these different places. And eventually I was trying to find a solution. My daughter was getting a little bit older and I had some bandwidth freed up in my life. I was like, I need to consolidate all this and have a better solution for this long term. And I started looking out into the market for something that would work. And there were a couple of journaling apps out there, but nothing that was like person to person. It was journaling kind of for yourself. And I had been all along with my journaling, like writing down my child's age and my age with each journal entry so that they could later read that with context of where we were at the different stages of our lives, how old we were. I was like, boy, it'd be great if there was a product that would do that for me. And it would be great if I could put this in it or that in it and video and audio. And I just couldn't find that. So frankly, creating Legacy Journal was a solution to my own problem that I had out there. So I'm not a tech guy per se. I mean, I'm an early adopter on some tech products, but I've not developed tech products before. I've been in a real estate investor and broker for 20 years, and I understand that space. But this is something very different. But so I went out, I kind of started researching and figuring out how do you go build something like this? How do you get in business with people like this? And that's what I ended up doing. And so late 2018. I kind of had made the commitment that I was going to go all in on this and make it happen. I put aside funds to go build this product, found a group to help me on the tech side to build our beta version of it. And so mid 2019, we kind of released our beta version, and I thought it was the most beautiful product ever. It was so awesome. It did these great things. And when I look back at it now, I'm like, man, that baby was ugly at the time. However, it worked. It worked, and it started happening. And by the end of our first year, we'd gotten to 1,000 customers that were people using the app and documenting their own stories right there. And that was kind of a really special moment. And then we've since continued to build and you totally redesigned. We ended up getting rid of that first tech team, replacing them, and 100% redesigned the app. We originally, so here's the interesting thing, Michael. You talk about not being a tech guy, and someone I wish would have just bonked me on the head or slapped me in the face when I was saying everything I wanted to do. I wish they would have said, hey, hold on, cowboy. How about you start just this way and build from there? But the original tech team I hired, like, yeah, no problem. We can build it. We can do it. And so we originally started because I was like, oh, Evernote has web. They've got iOS. They've got Android. I want all of that. And I wish someone had said, yeah, Evernote has like 87 engineers too working full time, and you don't. But anyway, that you live and learn. So version 2, we deprecated our web version because it was creating most of our issues and less than 5 people were using it. And so we went full mobile with version 2, and we redesigned it. Really, really beautiful design, streamlined it, eliminated tons of our problems right there, and now continue to grow. And now we've got over 5,000 people using it. Our monthly active users have grown about 80% over the past 90 days. So things are really starting to take off and looking good for the app right now.
That's awesome. And then I just, I cyber stalk all my guests so that we can have meaningful conversations. But also, I can point out the app currently is enjoying a 4.8 on the Apple App Store, which is pretty hard to do. People are kind of brutal on the Apple App Store. They don't like one thing and it's like 1 star.
Yeah.
They
Yes, they
just
can.
tank an app. So to be 4.8 is awesome. I think part of that's probably the tech side and you guys putting a good vision out there in an app. And part of it is when people find this app, it's a labor of love, right?
Yeah.
They're in a really good spot when they are searching for an app or come across this app. My wife just sent me a thing. My mom is now 84, soon to be 85, and she was like, "We should we should create a list of questions, and we should interview her and talk to her and have her tell her story and capture it on video, so the kids and the grandkids and the great grandkids and great great grandkids and forever on can hear her story and know who she was." And I just thought that's an amazing idea. And I told my wife, I said, "Hey, I'm going to talk to this guy who started this app, and it's very cool." And she's like, "Man, I wish we did that with our kids," right? Like just the reaction to the concept of the app is like this feel good love fest inside from parent to child.
Let me share something with you because I hear that comment fairly frequently. Kids are almost out of the house or they're out of the house already. And it's like, I wish I would have done this with my kids. And I get that. And I resonate with that. And last year or this year, my mother passed away. And
Sorry.
thank you. In going through all her belongings and going through everything, the most valuable thing I came across were 3 letters that were written to my mother from my uncle about their parents, my grandparents. And just reading the stories of my grandmother and her support of my grandfather when he was struggling and building his business and what she was doing, it was just stories that I had never heard before. And that was hands down the most valuable thing I received, from all of my mother's things. It was, and those are treasured. I'm in a safe place right now, and I will treasure them always. So I share with anyone that's thinking, I wish we'd have started this earlier. I share this. What if you just wrote 10 quick stories about your children's childhood or about your life that maybe they didn't know, and maybe a paragraph or two within each story right there, and you just wrote 10 stories. I promise, when they receive that, it would be one of the most valuable things that they've ever received, and hopefully they receive it while you're living and not just as you pass. But if giving your family something like that is one of the most beneficial things I think we can do. It really fosters connection, and it opens up, I think, pathways between parent and child.
I love it. Yeah, our it's such a we take lots of pictures. I was just complaining about Shutterfly the other day. As a technologist, I can't understand how Shutterfly is still A, in business, and B, relevant, because from a technology perspective, they're woefully inept. They could be so much more, and I just see the potential. But everybody kind of like takes all these pictures and they're kind of out of context and they're just kind of put somewhere, whether Shutterfly or nobody really prints pictures, I don't think, anymore. Or they're, to your point, they're put on a drive or whatever.
But on
They're
Google
not.
Drive or in your
Yeah,
phone, I've got 15,000 pictures on my phone.
it's crazy, right? But there's no associated story there for somebody just flipping through. It's like, oh, there's a kid at a park or whatever, right? Not like, hey, this is the first time we took you to the McCormick Stillman Railroad Park and you rode this train and the carousel and you got to meet so and so and we were here and it was like such a cool vibe, right? When you add words to pictures, it just comes alive, right?
It's so true. So I have pictures. The next journal entry I will be making is from some pictures I took this weekend. and in some video that we took, we can put video in the legacy journal as well. And I took video of, my son, who's 5, his first pedal on the bicycle without training wheels. And I was watching him figure that out. And for me to then tell the story about how cool it was to just be there and share that moment with him and see his confidence getting higher and higher with each kind of, the trek he made around the little park there. It was a special moment for me and his mom, and I'll write that down and then have a couple of photos and a video to show him, so that years later he can watch that. I showed my daughter. I gifted her journal recently when she graduated high school, and it was so cool to get to show her some of the entries that I'd created over the years for her, including teaching her how to ride her bike. So it was
That's
really cool.
awesome. I challenge quite often on the show. I like to try to challenge our parents, right? Fellow parents. And none of us have it right, and none of us are perfect in any way, and we're all trying to figure it out. And there is no guidebook to being a dad. So I think we're all we're all learning as we go. But I had a guest on, and we were talking about being intentional and such. And one of the coolest things she said was, "It's great to say, 'Oh, I'm proud of you.'" In passing, and after you say that, "Oh, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of you," right? They did good in school, they did good on a test, you're proud of them, you're proud of them. They did good in sports, you're proud of them. But like getting their attention and sitting them down, just one-on-one, and saying, "Hey, son, daughter, I'm really proud of these 3 things that you did recently that just really meant, it's like, it's such a different meaning and such a different impact
Yeah.
than just saying, 'I'm proud of you,' which is so generic, and almost like it's like going to Chick-fil-A, and they say, 'My pleasure,' and you're like, 'Oh my God, okay, it really
Yeah.
isn't your pleasure, it's your job,' and you just kind of, but that intention, and this app just enables it. I want to talk a little bit about the app, and maybe you can kind of just like describe it. I know this is audio, but it will also be video. So if you're
Yeah.
listening to the audio, go over to YouTube, watch the video, and you'll get to see Ken and I. You won't get to see the app. You'll just get to see Ken and I. So then you'll have to go to the App Store and look at the app and get the app. But talk to us a little bit about what's the experience like in the app when folks are using it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you within this also a solution to what you and your wife were talking about. So I'll tell you a component of the app right now. So the app, first of all, it's designed to feel very natural. We're all used to social media and how that feels and scrolling through a feed. Okay, so this is designed to show you a feed, but instead of a public feed with you and 10 million other people, it's you. It's your family, or you and your family members that you've invited in here to journal with you into this. So uh, it's designed to be a person to person kind of journaling platform right here, and it accepts photo, video, audio files, say voicemails. It will
Mm,
create a digital timeline of your child's life. So you can add like for instance, you have 5 children, so you can go in and add your 5 kids into the app. Basically, when I say add, you add their name and their date of birth into the app. And so the reason you add the date of birth, if you choose, is in your name and date of birth, is that it will then kind of chronicle your age and their age at each entry that you made. And if you backdate an
mm,
entry 10 years ago, it will backdate the ages back to the time right there. And then with that, as you're kind of journaling through, you can view these entries on a digital timeline of your child's life. It's kind of like a modern day digital growth chart that you can look at.
I
Cool
love
thing
it.
also is we set it up to where you can designate any entry as a milestone entry. So those major milestones, first date, 16th birthday, entered kindergarten, those kind of things, or Grace, freshman at college. So I'll enter these things in for my children, and literally I can just look at the milestones on a timeline view. And it is one of the coolest things. It's just watching your child grow up through their major milestones right there. And then from looking at those, it's very visual. So you're looking at like the lead picture from each one of those, and you can click on any one, and it opens up the full journal entry so that you can actually read the story that went along with that moment. So it's set up like that. It's shareable within your family so that you can invite other family members into what we call to be a scriber. So basically a contributor into the app. So especially for husband and wife, maybe inviting grandparents. I know people that have invited nannies or kind of caregivers into it that
Sure.
can journal some stories into there. So any of these people can write stories about this same set of people right there, and they can kind of put their own photos or videos or things in there, and it's got security settings in it to where you can, you could set up that your caregiver, for instance, could only see the entries that they've made. They couldn't see all of the entries that you've made. They could just see the entries that they've made, or you could give them access to see all entries right there. That's kind of the basic look and feel of the app. It's been really, really well received, and it's also been some interesting use cases. Is that I've seen a couple of instances where husband and wife had been using it to communicate back and forth. So I've kind of talked to them like, yeah, we just kind of we travel a lot, so we'll write in the entry. They'll write journal entries into the app, and then the other will read it and write another. It's almost like a little love letter composition thing here going back and forth. So that's been a fascinating use case. But then to your point of saying of capturing um, moments from an aging parent and asking questions, one of the most underutilized features in the app, mostly because it's a little bit buried, so hopefully people listen to this and use it, is we have something called an interview feature in there where you can literally write out. So we will eventually have pre-built grandparent questions into there. We just have 3 kind of default templates you can use right now, but you can go build your own templates of questions. And here's what's cool. Then you hold up your phone and you hit record, and the questions that you built scroll through on your phone, and you can just ask the questions as you're interviewing, and they just kind of scroll through on your phone. And that's actually something that the very first developers we had came up with, and I was like, that was from a mind map that I had written like 4 years ago, as what a cool idea that would be. And anyway, that's a really cool feature that is available to people.
I love it. At the end of the day, the older we get, I think the less stuff is important and people and relationships. When I was younger, I'm a car guy, right? I had a Porsche, I had a Corvette, I've had mega cars. I spent way too much money on cars. And as I get older, I'm like, I don't want a fancy car, right? Like
Yeah.
I want a vehicle that I can take my family in and go do cool stuff. I don't want a 2-seater. I want a 4-seater, right? I want more people with me, and people are important. And, I make sure that a couple days a week we're hanging out with my mom and cherishing that time and trying to get, other people around that so that they get to know her and, it supports her, it supports them. Um, and people really become the important thing as we age. It's interesting because when we're younger, I think we're all hungry for the American dream, and possessions and things and money and success, and then the older you get, you're like, screw all that. I just want to hang out with great, amazing people, and I want to hear their stories. And
It's about people and experiences. I tell you, so my middle son will graduate high school uh, next summer, basically next June, and he'll go to college in August. When that happens, I'll have my 2 older in college. Our little guy will be in first grade, and my wife and I and Kai, our little guy, have bought an RV, and we're going to hit the road for a year, just having experiences together as a family,
I
meeting
love it.
other families, traveling around the country, and seeing great places, visiting friends around the country. We'll work on the road, and we'll school him on the road, and we will have one of the best years of our life just doing that. But it's to your point, it's all about just the connection, the experience, and the time together as family.
I love it. So, serial entrepreneur, kind of real estate, which we established has very little to do with building an app,
Yeah.
but you made your way over here to do this. Why, why this? Why now? Like what And I know you shared kind of some data points that kind of spurred you along the path, but why not just keep charging ahead in real estate and staying kind of on your career
Yeah.
trajectory?
Uh, Look, it was, I really thought long and hard about that. And I had a few things, free up in my world that gave me a little bit of bandwidth to go pursue something like this. And look, we still have real estate holdings. I'm a partner in a laundromat company as well. We buy real estate for that. So there's still some of that going on. And real estate it's fun. I enjoy it. And I enjoyed helping other people in real estate. But this is This is something that's really making a big difference in people's lives. And when I get the stories from people about what it's meant to them, what it means to them, what it means to their family, uh, that, and we got 5,000 users today. This can have 5 million or more users as we go on. And I know this is the kind of product that can have such a meaningful impact in the world. And so it's that time in my life. You talk about getting older and having different perspectives. It's the time in my life right now to for significance, to do something that can help a lot of other people. And this is my vehicle to do that.
I love it. If you go and kind of, like I said, I cyber stalk all my guests. So I had to go to the legacyjournal.app, which is actually a website for the app. But on there is a video that I assume is spliced together with an actual story. I don't know if that's actually Grace in the video,
No,
right? But
it's not.
it tells a great story of the presentation, of meaningful words from a parent to a child. And it just, I'm like getting goosebumps thinking about the video because it was moving.
Yeah.
So it was, if that's the effect it was supposed to have, it definitely did. It triggered my father reflex, I guess. Um, and I sent it to my daughter, and she was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" Because she just went to college in California. We're in Arizona. She went to California, Azusa Pacific, go Cougars. She
Congrats.
went to, yep, thank you. She went off, and we wrote her. My wife and I wrote her 15 letters for her first 15 days, and she was to open a letter every day, and it was just a little like, "Hey, we believe in you. You can do this. We know things are hard." And then when we got to the college during orientation weekend had us do, hey, write a letter to your child. So we sat in chapel. It's a Christian university. We sat in chapel and we wrote, a 2-page letter to the child, and they gave her one right around Halloween. They gave her one, and she just called us just bawling, right? And she was
Oh,
just like, thank you so much. This is amazing, right? It's one of the most treasured things. I'm sure if I called her and said, hey, where's that letter that the university gave you? I'm sure she has that tucked away somewhere that
yeah.
she's just going to have, right? Um, and I equate all these experiences, right, to the video, to the story that you told about with that video, to the app and what it's doing, and it's just moving. The video has a really cool component to it because it then becomes kind of this international compilation. Like I can't understand what anybody's saying, but you can just see all the love, right, that exists in those videos. And I'm like, wow, this like moving feeling it transcends languages, countries, generations. It's kind of crazy the simple power of that interpersonal relationship. How did you get all that video, from all over the country? Was that like people sending it to you, or?
Yeah. That video is special. And so I'll give you a little backstory on the video is that um, that is basically a tribute to the fathers that helped me write my last journal entry for Grace before I gifted her with her journals. And I wanted the last entry to be advice for her to take with her. So, like an advice from dad entry. And what I knew is that I certainly didn't have all of the world's best advice. And I knew I had, a little bit of, my own. And so I reached out to my network of friends and colleagues, my tribe, and I asked, I was like, hey, if your child was about to leave the nest, what is a bit of advice that you would want to give her or him? And I just was flooded with amazing responses from these people. And I'd put it on social media. And so I'd got just so many amazing responses. And so I took a lot of their responses and then my advice, and I put that into her last journal entry, which was the first one she read when I gave it to her. And she cried when she read it. It was just beautiful. And so the video was something that I wanted to do to honor the fathers that had given that advice to me and to my daughter. And so I had met this really, really talented video producer about a year ago. And we had been talking about some kind of video to produce for Legacy. We looked at some really cool, just inspirational, moving videos. And then as I was collecting all this advice from my daughter, we were talking back and forth. He said, "I've got the idea for the video." And so we came across this, and so we it was very for your audience, go check it out on our website, legacyjournal.app, and watch that video. And it is very professionally done, but it is the voice of a father as his daughter is setting out on a life on her own. And as she sets out on this bus going off into life on her own, she pulls out a letter and starts to read it, and it's her father's voice that starts to narrate the letter. But that father's voice then quickly changes into another father's voice in another language, and then another father's voice. And you see, it is the collective voice of fathers from around the world to the collective daughters from around the world, just giving our best advice to them as they venture out on their own. So it was just beautifully done. And Dan, the videographer, just so happens that as we start to produce this video, he has his first daughter. So this is so meaningful to him as well. And so he's, I get chills thinking about it. So Dan's like, this became, a really important project for him because it's also the advice he wants to pass on to his daughter. So that's what it became. It's really special. It's been picked up by a handful of news organizations already. We hope even more pick it up and show it, because I'd love for that to just get the widest distribution possible.
I feel like it needs to be out on TikTok or something, right? To blow up to 34 million views or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. We're actually working. I'm not a TikTok guy, but I've got a couple of people on our team that are working on kind of setting up a TikTok thing. We're going to try to get that out there. We've got a short. TikTok is limited to its short time frame, but we do have a 1 minute version that we can put up on TikTok.
Yeah, it's funny. So again, I'll echo your words, right? If you are like, what are they talking about? I mean, here's two, middle-aged dudes that are fairly manly, and we're both getting chills talking about like this father-daughter relationship. And for those of you that don't have a daughter, it doesn't have to be a daughter, right? The same advice would
That's
probably
right.
be pretty similar to my
Yeah.
sons. Just that, like, I just challenge you to take the time, right? Like, just pause, hit the pause button, or do it after hours, or do it right before you go to bed, or read the 5 a.m. club and get up at 5 a.m. when your day starts at 6. Take an hour and pause and just check this out. And whether you sign up for the Legacy app or not, right? As a parent, just pause a moment and think about what are you doing to communicate, to intentionally reach your children, and leave them with something, right? That after, and you might think, oh, well, I'm only 40, or I'm only whatever. Um, you know, Horrific things, bad things can happen to good people at any time, and not, you might say, well, I'll do this next year or the middle of next year. And, um, you know, hopefully not, but we just never know that when that day, comes. Um, and it's an investment of time, but the app, right? It's on your phone. We all have our phones. We all carry, they're not more than an arm away, right? Ken's got his, there we
Always.
go, right?
Yeah.
Ken's got his
Always.
phone. I got my phone. For those of you not watching on video, we just held up,
Yeah.
like, we're doing a podcast, but like, within reach is our phone. It's just so easy, it makes it, it just, it's such a call to action. And now you have a kind of this platform that makes it better than OneNote or Evernote or Word. Um, so the some folks really are interested in like the entrepreneurial journey, right? You've got 5 businesses. You're now on this business. You're obviously successful at starting and continuing businesses. Do you have just regardless of what the business is, do you have tips for entrepreneurs that are starting a business?
Yeah. It's interesting. And I've had some really good advice from other people over the years. And, my son is about to venture out into college, and he wants to get into commercial real estate right now. And So my advice to him, my advice to my daughter, my advice to so many people is actually to do a little bit opposite of what I've done. I've started and continued a number of businesses, and that I've been involved. I still am involved in probably 3 active businesses right now, and it's a struggle on my own bandwidth to have that, and to allocate time for family, which I do. So everything suffers a little bit when you're like that. And so my advice is to and I'll tell you, this advice came from Jeff Hoffman, who was the founder of Priceline.com. He's brilliant, a billionaire, and you can tell why when you hear him speak, you can hear he's such a smart, wise man, and a generous man. He spends most of his time today helping other entrepreneurs. But Jeff had said, he goes all in on one project, and he's 100% committed, all in on one project, and sees it through to the finish, which is usually an exit for him. It's, he'll start it, he'll grow it, he'll do it, he'll have an exit on it. And I think that would be one of my biggest points of advice, is to go all in on a project and not get distracted, because it's really easy to get distracted by another opportunity, because there's always other opportunities out there for us to go pursue. And I've been guilty of pursuing too many opportunities in the past. So I guess one of my best points of advice is to don't do that. Go all in on one thing instead of multiple things. So that's one bit of advice. And the other is get started early. Tell these young kids in their 20s, I mean, this is your time to get out there to hustle. You're not married. You don't have kids yet. I mean, you can just crank out the work. In my 20s, I was, chasing girls and hanging out and drinking beer way too much. If I could go back to the younger Ken from back then, like, dude, get it together. Now is your time to go put in the time. It really is. And so that'd be my other bit of advice. When you're early on in life, as you get a family, it is an important priority. And I think you need to prioritize your family right there when you have one. But until you have that time, it's commit to your work, to your passion, your projects that you want to focus on, and kind of figure out what that really interests you. I think too many people go pursue something because it sounds like the right thing to do, or they think they can go make money doing this thing. And I've pursued some of those things in the past, and yeah, you can go make some money. I think where you can make real opportunity, though, is when you're pursuing something that you're really, really interested in and passionate about. And the last thing I guess I would say is connect yourself with really, really solid people. There are some great mentors out in this world, and people that are really willing to help. And I've advised many, many young kids, like coming out of college. I'm like, hey, here's my advice to you. If you can't land the ideal job that you want, and you don't just go get hired, go do this. Go walk into the door of the top 5 places you want to be at, and go sit down in front of the person that can make a decision, and you go tell them you'll work for 60 days for free, 100% free. Don't pay me a thing. I will show up every day. And you show up and you add value every single day. You figure out, how can I help this person, help this company, help this venture, and figure out how to add value. And if it's the right kind of place, they're going to find a place for you. If you're bringing value into that, someone's going to say, all right, this kid should stick around. Right? Let's figure out how we can pay him, get him to stick around. So there's a
I
tidbit of
love it.
advice.
I love it, right? I always say all my entrepreneurs have hustle. I've yet to see an entrepreneur that, fell into their business or just took the easy way. They're all, they all put in the hours, the sweat equity. I think so many people these days are looking for, like, what's that quick fix? What's that, you know, what's that crypto investment that's going to make me a millionaire? Or, I hear if I sell
Yeah.
products on Amazon, I'll be a millionaire driving a Ferrari. And, and you probably could blow up an Amazon business to that level, but
But
it's
it's all going to take
hustle.
work. It's
Yeah,
all going
it's
to take the hustle.
hustle.
Yeah.
And so,
You're exactly right. Any of those things that people are selling, most of them can't. Okay, I'll give you an example. I bought Carlton Sheets, no money down real estate, way back in, I don't know, I was in my early 20s. And I think I spent $400 on the course buying this thing. If I would have applied it, I guarantee you I would have made plenty. Like, what he was saying to do works. Now, is it uncomfortable to do it? Yeah. it's uncomfortable. I mean, if you're uncomfortable asking for certain things or doing certain things, so yeah. But if I would have applied what he was teaching, it would have been money well spent. I would have made 20x that money and then some right there. But I didn't. I was out there, I was like, oh, there's a great idea that I didn't follow up on. So, I think that what you said is exactly true. It takes the work, it takes the hours to log in. And to my point earlier, the earlier you start logging those hours and putting in the reps, the sooner you'll start seeing the results.
I love it. That's definitely great advice. The app, you shared that 2019 you guys started. You had 1,000 subscribers. You guys are now up to 5,000. How does one market an app, right? Like, how do you digitally let people know, like, hey, pay attention to this? Because to me, this, if you think about the number of parents, right, the number of dads, the number of fathers, I'm like, the only reason this app isn't like 35 million subscribers is people just haven't figured it out yet, right? Or
Yeah.
people are, and I hope we play a small part in that. But how does one go about marketing, an app?
Yeah, that's our $64,000 question right there. That literally trying to unlock everything. And so here's how naive I was when I told you I didn't know the tech business. I really was so naive that um, I believe the idea was such a great concept and a great idea that as soon as we release this to the world, I'd put it out on social media and there's going to be just thousands of downloads overnight. It's going to happen right there. Well, I didn't understand anything about social media algorithms or what little following I had or any of that kind of stuff out there. So, we have played the social media and put that out there. But what's working right now? So again, I've been on probably 40 podcasts this year. We're launching our own podcast,
Wow.
content marketing, putting out content on our blog side and putting that out there. We've press and PR is playing a role. So that's one of the reasons we produced the letter video is to get press and PR out there, to get that story out there, and to get invited to speak in podcasts and whatnot. So press and PR is playing a role, and then we're starting to reach out to micro influencers because I think there's some real benefit to
Hmm.
folks that have small but loyal tribes right there, and reaching out to micro influencers and starting to attempt to partner with them as well. That's kind of the
That's
buckets we're playing in right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. Smaller companies, right, that produce a cool product can't, I had somebody say, well, why don't they just run like a television ad campaign? And I'm just like, do you have any idea what that costs? Why don't you just run a Super Bowl ad, Ken? I mean, come on.
Someone just fund that for me, please, and we'll do it. Yeah.
It's so funny, just kind of, you know, uh, just that space. But I appreciate that. Yeah, it's hard work, and it's person to person contact. So
Yeah.
if you're listening, and there's all kinds of things you can do to help an app like this. A like on the Apple App Store is a rating. Once you've downloaded the app and are enjoying it. Coming back, and I know some of those apps get annoying, like, hey, are you enjoying this app? Please go rate us.
Yeah.
I can't, tell the listeners how important that is to get not only good ratings, but the number of ratings, right? Getting
Yeah.
lots and lots of people to give good ratings to an app bumps it up in priority and has it presented a lot more to people that are maybe browsing or surfing for apps. An app with 10,000 ratings and is 4.8 is going to be like front page on the App Store. Everyone's going to see it. So take the time, go check out legacyjournal.app, the website. If nothing else, just scroll about 3/4 of the way down the page, and spend the moments watching the video. I'm going to start the video just so I can see how long it is. 5 minutes and 31 seconds. So we're
Yep.
not suggesting a half-hour day suck here. We're in 5 minutes. It is a moving video. If you're not moved by that video, you should unsubscribe from this podcast because I was like brought to tears. I was like, wow.
When I first saw the time on that, I was like, "Oh, Dan, this is too long." And I played it the first time, and by the end of the time it finished, I was like, it felt like it was 2 minutes. It just zipped by, and I was so drawn into it. So yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, y'all go watch that. And I would love for that. And I appreciate you're exactly right. If you like the app, please go rate us on there. Tell us what you love. If there's something you want change, I mean, you can contact me directly. So we're a small company, so I literally respond to everyone directly myself. I mean, I have a customer support help, but when people email, I love, one of the things I most enjoy is frankly interacting with our customers and hearing what they love, what they'd like to see. We just had a suggestion. I'm dialoguing with a woman right now. What would that look like in your mind? So, we're always adding to our roadmap right
Mhm.
there. So, I appreciate the commentary and the suggestion to help.
Awesome. Well, Ken, it's a great product. It has just, I mean, it's your passion product, but I have passion around it. I think it's just amazing for dads, moms, family everywhere. What a, in the digital age, I know we used to all write stuff down, but we aren't walking around with journal books anymore and diaries and things like that. Whether you think that's too sad that we're not, or what, the reality is we all have phones, and it's so easy to just take a moment, while you're checking your email and be like, oh, I haven't done my journal entry today. I want to make sure I capture this that happened last night. This person said this or whatever, or I took a picture. What a cool, Snapchat is great, but Snapchat, the images go away, which is the whole purpose of Snapchat. And I never really understood that. I was like, what a ridiculous, I'll say it on my podcast, right? Because it's my podcast and I can say whatever I want, but Snapchat is a ridiculous app. I can't stand that app for a variety of different reasons. But just the fact that, like, it's like, oh, that's a cool picture. And I was like, hey, where'd that picture go? Oh, no, it's
Yeah.
gone. I'm like, what a wait. Like, why did you, like, I don't even begin to
I'm
understand. So
clearly too old for Snapchat. So
yeah, you and I both. I'm like, I don't even understand why that's a thing. But so please take a moment, go to legacyjournal.app. You can contact Ken through there, obviously through the App Store. It's very cool. There's a little chatbot that pops up, and maybe that's you on the other end. Maybe we
yeah,
can.
no, it will respond to Melissa, who will respond directly to me. That's right. I'm the little chat bot. So yeah,
There we go.
you
So
can
we
get,
can.
and look, if people want to email me directly, I mean, I'm happy to get, my email is ken at legacyoflove.app, which is our corporate
Awesome.
name, Legacy of Love Inc. And so, people can reach out to me directly. I'd like I said, it really is one of the things I love is communicating directly with folks and hearing what's working for them. And just frankly, talking parenting stuff because that's my passion. I mean, that's my, if I can stay closer to my kids and parenting, then it's a great life for me.
It's the most important job any of us are ever going to have. So
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
awesome. Well, Ken, thank you for taking the time again and sharing the app and your history and your journey and just your passion around being a great parent. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks again.